Hey, Tim Glomb from WunderKind here, and I did a great case study sit down with WiseOx and talked about how much fun it was to actually play with their mascot tools of generating awesome mascots for all kinds of different use cases inside our business and how we're propelling the customer journey with our WunderKind brand. You should check it out.
Why are you adopting WiseOx compared to all the other tools that you evaluated?
We evaluated so many tools in the last 6 months. We've met with Google, we've met with Amazon, we've met with Guru, we've met with a dozen of them. Many of the big companies are trying to solve, in my opinion, too many problems too quickly. They're trying to be everything to everyone rather than just simplify a use case that provides value and grow from there. The reason that it was a no-brainer for WiseOx, unlike the giant behemoths where literally I'm on Google Meets with 14 engineers telling me how Google's engine is going to be this awesome thing, the output just wasn't there. They had all the connections, they had the repositories, they had the infrastructure, they had the permissioning, all that checked the boxes, but the output was not good. WiseOx, one person, in less than a day, I was able to add content, ask some questions, see an output and go, it was that simple. Why have I been chasing all these tails and listening to engineers and salespeople at these giant companies tell me we've got permissioning, we've got this, and we've got security, and it's like none of that matters if your output isn't valuable. And WiseOx nailed the output. And again, anybody can use it. They don't have to be an engineer. They could be a 24-year-old business development associate in their first job out of college, go in, ask some questions, and find the content that they need that they didn't even know existed. And that's powerful.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Let's take a step back and talk about WiseOx. I would just love to hear in your words, how would you describe what is WiseOx?
WiseOx is great. WiseOx it really simplifies the idea of taking great content and making it actionable in new outputs. So it streamlines the ability of what everyone thinks about ChatGPT. Oh, it'll write me an email, it'll write me a letter. Yeah, of course, it'll do that, but it's pulling from all kinds of different content. WiseOx allows you to really supercharge your own content, your own data for any output you need that's copy driven. Knowledge exchange, writing emails, sales emails, follow-up emails. One of the things that WiseOx solved for us instantly that in a large company with a massive sales team we couldn't do, which is I'm on the phone with a prospect or a client right now, they're asking me a question, I don't know the answer, I've got to follow up. How many times have we been on those sales calls? Oh, that's a great question. I'll get back to you. I'm going to talk to engineering. In the call, on a screen share, with confidence, they can pull up a WiseOx mascot that was trained specifically on a particular set of content, ask the question, see the result in real time with the client on, and they have confidence it's going to get the right answer. Because it's RAG, it's trained on our materials, it's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to make things up. And that was an aha wake-up moment for me. I've just empowered the sales team to shorten the sales cycle, to not have to deal with follow-up emails with information that may or may not get read or pester somebody for a second call. When you can answer those questions in real time at the first at-bat with a prospect or a client, the confidence is there. So that is the number one problem it solved for me, which was amazing.
I think this was the first case study, or the first proof of concept was taking 300 or so case studies that you guys had and loading them into the Mascot knowledge base. Is that the scenario that you're talking about where you said, wow, the outputs from this seem far superior to anything that we're getting from other platforms? Maybe talk a little bit about those first early days and the proof of concept demos that we created.
The first thing I did when I got my hands on WiseOx was, okay, I've got great content. I'm the head of content. We've got amazing case studies. We probably had 200 to 300 documents on sales and marketing material that had been created by our team. Took tons of time and energy to build. I loaded all of those up and started asking it questions. Hey, who had the largest lift in revenue performance? Who got the largest lift in email conversions? What would triggered email potentially do for a ROAS for a client? Instantly, all of that data, which is sitting there in individual case studies, a lot in video format, transcripts or PDFs, was all at my fingertips. And it would spit out bullet points. So again, being able to have our sales team go, hey, I have a call with a footwear retailer today. What do we have on footwear? What do we have on triggered email? That's what they're interested in. And they might be interested in our text product. Write me a quick synopsis or give me an outline that I should follow today on my sales call with this prospect. it did it perfectly because it never hallucinated. It never went to the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
It just looked at our own content that we invested in, created, and vetted, edited, and it brought it to life without having to search through it. It's like a needle in a haystack.
One of the coolest things I think about generative AI and large language models is you can ask it a question, the footwear example that you gave, and maybe in those 300 case studies, it doesn't give you the exact thing you're looking for is not in any one of those documents. So search would be like, hey, here's the most relevant document, go look at this, find and develop the net new answer that you want for the customer. With WiseOx and large language model concept, it can generate a net new answer that's not directly answered word for word in any one of the 300 case studies, but it can generate something totally new that is very tailored to the question that you're asking and the response that you want for your customer.
The power of WiseOx and the Gen AI is we have the data, right? So we have a search tool on our website. I can find case studies. Sales teams can find footwear case studies, but now they got to read them. They got to like digest it, take their notes, and go make net new content for a call or an email. With Gen AI and what WiseOx does so well is create that output for you. It will summarize, it will pull stats if you ask it to. It'll summarize, it'll give you 10 sentences or 2 sentences. So being able to generate new output based on existing content is really, it's a speed to value because, look, I'm gonna say it, when I went to high school, it was all about the Cliff Notes, right? You didn't read the book. Yeah. You got the Cliff Notes, you handed that in. Gen AI is like exponentially increasing the speed to summarize and give you only what you need. It's just about writing the right prompt, which also is not very difficult. You know, so prompting isn't that hard. You can train people on that and they figure it out. After 5 prompts, they know how to talk to these things and know how to get to the answer that they need.
Yeah, prompt engineering is like a little bit intimidating for people, but basically it's how do you ask good questions?
One of the biggest things I think WiseOx does for us, in fact, a lot of the big enterprise tools we were looking at with giant price tags that had all these crazy capabilities, almost, I don't think any of them had a consumer-facing ability for me to have a chatbot-like experience for web traffic or clients, et cetera. So they were internal tools, which is great. We need to solve that internal knowledge problem. But WiseOx not only solved our internal knowledge problem, it's now able to be embedded on our website. We use it at events, things like that, trade shows where people are waiting to talk to our reps and there's too many people, they can converse with a mascot from WiseOx. Where I think that's really important is think about the user and buyer journey. Anybody going to a website looking for something has questions. They already in their mind know, I have this problem, I think this company might be able to solve it. And what have we been doing for 30 years? We've been going to websites and we read a linear story that some marketer wrote for us. We can't ask it a question, right? Unless we hit I want to book a demo and get on a call, which sure, maybe we'll do that. But the Mascot changed everything. I can tell it a story on my homepage, but at the same time I say, ask me anything, WunderBot will answer it. So if that content that they really cared about or needed or that one question isn't written on a web page, they can get it right there. And I think WiseOx and tools like this for consumers are gonna change the way that we even interact with websites. I think static websites, navigation, what we all know today, I think that's gonna die it might be slower than I'd like, but it's gonna die a fairly quick death. And it's gonna be a conversational experience. And that's where WiseOx, with your right content behind it, can change how people learn about your company, inform, and ultimately want to purchase from you.
Talk to me a little bit about mascots, or even just let's start at the highest level, assistants, bots, co-pilots. What do you think of that category of AI and how do mascots fit into that concept?
The mascot concept is interesting because one would say, like a ChatGPT, I want a one-size-fits-all, just single box that I can query and get the answers I need. And yes, that may be a good thing if you can get it, but I mentioned before, I've gone through a lot of these tools and they're trying to be everything to everyone and they're not really doing anything well. The concept of a mascot is simple. Train it and give it certain criteria. So let's say a legal mascot, right? Only my legal documents. So if I'm contracting with a client and they have questions about our legal process or data processes, great. Here's a mascot that's squarely focused on that. It's gonna be an expert at that. Just like I would have an expert, subject matter expert here. Same thing for marketing, same thing for sales, same thing for our roadmap and internal. All of our internal documentation for our roadmap is in one Mascot. So now you don't have to go and expect this thing to do everything to everyone. What's also nice about Mascots is department leaders in our companies can own those Mascots. So they can govern which data is in it, when it's refreshed, what things need to be added, purged, etc. So the concept of a Mascot becomes very easy to manage when you have multiple departments. But even if you're a single company, it's super simple. Just load your legal docs here, load your financial docs there, load your marketing docs there, sales, technical documents. Use the Mascot because it's gives you the ability to market a particular use case for somebody rather than, hey, here's my search bot, get in it and maybe it'll give you the right answer.
Yeah. I think that's really helpful for people inside of an organization to start to adopt AI. Yep. You shrink in order to go big again.
Yeah, again, I think it's keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
Start with a Mascot, get a use case, get the right content in it. Don't worry about getting 50,000 documents in it. Get the right 50.
Yeah.
Train it, get it out there, get it into the market. Start really simple. It's not difficult.
How did your world and idea, so we started with one Mascot. That one Mascot was trained on the case studies and ultimately became WunderBot that's now on the website. But if we log into your WiseOx account, I think there's 9 Mascots now. What was that process like? Did you just have light bulb moments where oh, we can use a Mascot for this, or we can use a Mascot for that? And how did that process happen?
It's difficult when you go try and solve too many problems at once. We have a lot of problems and a lot of use cases that we'd like to solve for, but again, in the keep it simple, we chose one. We learned, we cut our teeth with WiseOx incredibly quickly. I'm gonna say within a week, we nailed our WunderBot, which is sales and marketing material, both public facing and an internal resource for the sales team. Once we learned how easy it was to train, to put behaviors behind, to give pre-written prompts and guaranteed answers, and even tell it, hey, look, ask somebody to go to our Get Started page and fill out a form. Once we learned how easy it was, then all of those other use cases and ideas just flooded in. So instantly we went from one Mascot, now I think we have 9. I wouldn't be surprised that in 2 months we have 30, because again, we're finding all these little niche use cases and it's so quick and easy to set up. The editing is simple, the behaviors are simple, adding a logo is simple, and just boom, click a web app. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have dozens of Mascots for particular reasons very, very quickly.
Let's talk about that. First, the UI, how easy is it to actually tweak and change the Mascot's behaviors? And then how powerful is it and what are some of the use cases?
Yep. One of the things I love about WiseOx is their UI simplified everything. So let's talk about behaviors, for example. Some tools are very complex. You've got to go into different areas in the UI. You've got to do all this crazy stuff. In one simple page, you can completely go through 5 or more areas to train your behaviors. And you talk to it like you would talk to a child. Right? So if you told your child, hey, today you have to make your lunch, you have to get to school in this time, you have to get on this bus, and then you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna come home and do your homework, and then you're gonna do the dishes, and then you're gonna take the trash out. The exact same way I would talk to my son is the way you can talk to, and I use dictation. I don't even type anymore. Yeah. I use dictation inside the behavior and I say, you are a Mascot trained to help my sales and marketing team. Your material is X, Y, and Z. On the 3rd interaction, I would love for you to ask which industry the user is from. Maybe on the 5th interaction, hey, can I get your email address, or would you like to book a demo? Here's the URL, take them there. It was incredibly easy. It's so intuitive, counter to what most technical product-led companies would do, which is overcomplicate it, make it too technical to make you feel like you're getting this powerful tool, when realistically, simplicity is the key. I would say WiseOx took more of an Apple approach, right? Steve Jobs wanted to be 3 clicks away from anything. Yes. WiseOx, it's just simple page. You don't have to click through. It's natural language, talk to it like a 5th grader, and it's gonna do what you ask it to do.
How has WiseOx basically taken some of those concepts and then turned them into a simple UI?
Yeah, UI is everything when it comes to tools and solutions, right? Nobody's clamoring for another tool in their arsenal. They want an outcome. Yeah. And some of these tools get so complex that the UIs are just non-navigable. So it's a barrier to actually getting to the end result of why you may have bought the tool or partnered with that company. WiseOx has taken a completely new approach, which is refreshing to me. It's so simple. You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to know all the inner workings. We all use email platforms at every business. I don't care if you're on MailChimp, Constant Contact, or something crazy complicated like Marigold's enterprise solution. You don't need to know about DMARC and DCIM and all these things. You just need to drag and drop and send an email. And WiseOx is a very simple tool like that. It has simplified the UI. It's kind of WYSIWYG in nature. What you see is what you get. And they take care of the heavy lifting in the back end, so you don't have to worry about it. That's where I think the value is here. Again, when I looked at different solutions in the market, yes, I can buy car parts and build the world's best engine, but I'm in the business of doing remarketing for brands. I don't want to build an engine. I want to buy a set of keys and drive off the lot. And WiseOx refreshingly delivered on that through the sales cycle. I mean, it was the easiest thing. It was the easiest thing I signed in the last 5 months by far.
Awesome. The concept I want to get into is, we've talked a lot about building mascots and the user interface and the functionality of WiseOx to be able to train the mascot in the first place, the quality of its outputs being really good. So now we have this new AI tool that is highly trained and tuned for WunderKind. Now, how do we get it into the hands of the people that need it? So if it's a public-facing thing, it's got to go on the website. Would love to hear about the process for embedding and getting WiseOx into the website. Or if it's an internal thing, then it needs to be at the water cooler. Where do people hang out? Where do people have conversations? And in your org, that's Slack. So let's talk about those two integration points.
Yeah. So there's two different things that you have to worry about when it comes to implementing these tools. One, let me talk about consumer facing. For me, WiseOx makes it incredibly easy to make a public mascot available to web traffic, trade show traffic, basically anyone in the World Wide Web. Simple embed code, very easy to scan, put on brand. My web developer, Abdullah, he was excited to actually bring some new technology to the website. Very, very simple. So embed code, put it on any website, great. You also have a QR code. You're doing events, you're in the trade show business, you're a plumber, you drive around, put a QR code on the side of your van. It's that simple, so people can get to the web app, a dedicated microsite provided by WiseOx. So now you can even think about those as short term. So we go to Shop Talk, E-Tail, these giant retail events, and again, everyone's trying to get in our booth and we only have limited people. Well, they can converse with a mascot while they're waiting in line, or if they didn't have an appointment, they can get their answers, their questions and answers done right then and there on the fly on their mobile with a great experience. So deploying to the public, really simple. But another avenue for public facing that's probably the most important is this thing becomes your form. It becomes your human who's talking to somebody. What I mean by that is, it's not just a chatbot that you'd see in the right rail. And we have that. We have it down in the right corner. People are trained from the last few years with programmed chatbots with very limited question and answers. WiseOx is centerfold. So if somebody wants to ask a question or two, great, I'll give them that information, but then I can literally have the mascot say, great, what industry are you in? Or what's your revenue size? Or what's your email address? Would you like to book a meeting? Cool. All that data is conversational and comes in. So it's unlike a chatbot, we'll use the word chatbot, which has been around forever. Those were very programmed linear journeys. Maybe they went left, they went right, but a human had to write the responses. They had to literally program, and you were caged in to this chatbot experience. And I always love to break them and find the dead ends in the maze of now you can't answer this, I gotta go back. WiseOx is not that. It will keep conversational, be very honest when it doesn't have your answer, but it's very easy to get information out of a web visitor or trade show visitor or whoever's interacting with it. That has been one of the biggest things for us, is understanding what are people asking, and then being able to tie their email address or their revenue or their industry to those queries, which keeps us on topic, lets us develop more content that relates to people in those industries, and honestly, it allows us to drive a lead gen engine in sales ultimately, which that's what it's all about, more sales.
Excellent. Well, let's switch to the internal use case. How are mascots being used internally?
One of the biggest problems with any tool, right, and AI is going to fall into this bucket, is how do you get it adopted? Here, I was looking at our Tropic, we have probably 300 plus vendors that we do business with, 300. I would guess 100 of those are technologies that you could log into and use as a quote unquote tool.
Yeah.
But nobody wants another tool or another bookmark or have to remember, oh, I gotta go here to get this information on this particular thing. Where WiseOx really nailed it is, I can create a web app, people can bookmark that, and they don't have to log in. They can literally go to a URL that's focused only on my sales and marketing, or only on financial, or only InfoSec data. So that's easy, bookmark. Second thing is Slack. Every company that I've worked in the last 8 years has been heavy on Slack. Every one of our users, we have hundreds of channels. Everyone goes to Slack first. Even though we have these very expensive knowledge-based platforms, they go to Slack, ask each other questions. WiseOx integrating into Slack in 3 meaningful ways changed the game when it came to adoption. One, you can direct message. So if you're an admin in the platform, you can actually authenticate yourself into a particular mascot and have a one-on-one conversation right in Slack. So even though I talked about web app and a URL, doing it in Slack keeps you in the tool that you're in all day long. 2, being able to put things into a public channel. I love public channels because now you can go and ask a mascot a question and you'll get an answer very quickly and precise. But not only did you get the answer, other people can browse that channel and say, oh, you know what, I had that question before. I never really asked it, but I'm glad I see the answer now.
Yeah.
But it can also get noisy if that's your only communication. So public channel's great for that use case. You can browse, see what other people are asking and get answers. Then the private channel. Private channel is critical because InfoSec. We have a lot of integrations with our clients and customers, and there's very technical information, even RFP, request for proposal information that we get from a lot of brands. When we plug all that into a particular mascot, I can create a private channel in Slack that only has the key members that should ever be able to see that information. So when an RFP comes, there's a use case. When an RFP comes in for a new brand, they're usually asking the same questions another brand already asked us, and we already answered them.
Yes.
So rather than going and copying, pasting from old RFPs and slicing through, oh, did company X ask that question? You plug it all into a mascot. You say, hey, this new RFP asked this question. How long do you store data after a client has asked you to purge it? And the answer's right there. So our RFP process went from about 2 hours on average to answer one down to under 30 minutes because WiseOx allows us to action all of our previous work that we spent time, energy, and resources on, and it's at our fingertips. So those are the 3 ways that we use it inside of Slack: private, public channels, and direct DMs.
Let's talk about ROI. You just gave a great use case of RFPs, but how do you think in general, probably step 1 was let's get AI implemented, let's get more people within the organization using it. Now you've started to see the efficacy of that, the use and adoption of that. Where do you think you're going to attribute the most ROI from AI in general and then the WiseOx program?
Everything we do here has to be tied to an ROI. So we make any investment, there has to be a clear path of the value there. Number 1, AI, and particularly WiseOx, is saving us time. And time equals money, right? Time can be an RFP, for example, which usually takes about 2 hours to answer. Now with WiseOx and the data in it, we could do that in maybe 30 minutes. So did I just save money, or can I do more RFPs with less people and put other people on other human needed tasks? So time has been the biggest, easiest thing to measure. Second, when I can put all of my content in one repository and access it, do I need all these other platforms? I've probably purged 10 platforms that we were using historically, and in 2024, I just won't need. WiseOx has fixed that problem. These could be writing tools, they could be aggregation tools, these could actually just be repositories of where we put content. Showpad was a great use case of, hey, you can send client info from this thing and it'll track a link. I have a website, and my problem was I didn't know where content lived. Well, WiseOx has saved that. I put the content in it, it'll tell people where the content is, and it'll summarize it. So I was able to get rid of Showpad and save a bunch of money. Another clear ROI was tools and time and resources to create net new content. Meaning, do I use copywriters? Do I use freelancers, subject matter experts? Well, honestly, put your greatest content inside of a Mascot and ask it to write a blog, ask it to write an email. My sales team were manually writing emails based on information that they could glean from our content library. WiseOx just crushes those, just cranks them out, nonstop. Another clear ROI is just speed to closing a sale, right? That's a holy grail. If you can close a sale quicker and shorten that life cycle, you can get more sales, you can get more revenue booked. For us, being able to answer questions literally on a first sales call, right? We always do our presentation, we do our rigmarole, but they always have questions. Prospects always have questions. And our sales team, honestly, they can't be the know-it-alls. Yeah. Being able to have a Mascot on those calls in real time, get answers that they may not know or have to follow up on, closes the gap, increases the likelihood that that person, that prospect's gonna have confidence that we can solve their problems because we're answering their questions in real time. That was a huge one for us. So empowering sales with knowledge in real time changed the game for us and is actually shortening our sales cycles because less follow-up meetings, less follow-up emails that usually go unread. Usually they read the third follow-up email that you sent. So that was a huge eye-opener. It's so easy to use inside of a sales call or even a trade show booth to answer people's questions in real time. That's a game changer.
Let's double click on one of the use cases, which was your research content. So you go out and you do all this research and you have lots of good, rich data. Historically, I understand you would go through a process where you would take all that data and then develop it as a one-pager or develop it as sales materials. How have Mascots changed the concept of taking that data and then making it very actionable all the way to the end of the sales cycle?
A great use case for a Mascot that we adopted is a single content asset. What I mean by that is, I'm in the content game. I'm the head of global content here. We create a ton of PDFs, a ton of reports, a ton of blogs, written articles, all these things, right? And they're all just lead gen magnets. We try and get people, hey, you want this survey? We surveyed 10,000 people. We got these answers. Do you want it? Give us your email address. We'll try and sell you. That's been around forever. That PDF is very valuable and people will download it and we'll pay tens of thousands of dollars to promote it for lead gen. But when you can give them a PDF and a real-time interactive Mascot on the raw data. So for example, our 2024 Consumer Insights report, we polled 1,000 people across the globe, 35 questions. We're giving people the report, we wrote it, some answers, not all of them, but now a Mascot has all of the raw data behind it. So if anybody wants to go in and drill down into a particular question and ask, well, how did my age group, if I'm selling, accessories to 50-year-olds and over, I don't care about millennials or reverse. I can ask it, hey, what insight does this have when you break it down by age and maybe add gender, please? Because my company targets females above 50 years old. To be able to slice and dice that data without having to look at a spreadsheet, give it to a data science, person or distill it is huge. So we believe that Mascots actually become the value that we're offering to our prospects and to our clients. Easy to interact with, easy to get answers from, and it gets them the insights, which is the whole point of why we invested, right? We invested in surveys to give people insights about their business and their audience. Why gate it to a simple PDF where we chose the narrative? Let them go explore the raw data with themselves, and Mascot brings it to life in a really fun conversational way.
What do you think that gives your team in terms of morale and the blank page syndrome and even a little bit of brainstorming? I have this tool that I can now go to that I can get to the answers I'm looking for faster.
One of the first things we did when I built the first Mascot, which we called WunderBot, was just sales and marketing material. 600 employees, I said, hey, everyone, go break this. Go ask it a question, have it hallucinate, and I want you to tell me, copy and paste and just slack it straight to me. Tell me where it was wrong. I got a lot of slacks of people telling me where things were wrong, but it never gave the wrong answer. It just didn't have the content they thought it had, right? So what was amazing is the answers it gave were incredibly accurate. I'm under NDA for a lot of tools we tested. Nothing came close. I can't talk about the pitfalls of the other ones, but on day one, it was eerie how accurate the mascot was from WiseOx. And if it didn't know the answer, it politely told you, because I chose the right personality trait, you're charismatic, you're helpful, it would say, I'm sorry, I just don't have access to that data, which is the best answer you could ever get. Rather than like what a ChatGPT would do is go and find an answer and make it up. It's like a dog, it always wants to please you. WiseOx is just, it's astute, it's smart, it's intelligent, it's gonna give you the right answer, and I was blown away. No one has found a hallucination yet, and it's been months, almost a half a year. One thing I've learned in the last few years is nobody's looking for a better tool, right? Nobody in this day and age wants to buy a SaaS tool and a login and be trained to go do something, right? If I want to build a pool in my backyard, I don't go buy a shovel and learn how to use it, right? I hire somebody to come in and build me a pool. My time is better spent somewhere else. Same thing for tools these days in MarTech and technology. I want an outcome. I want to buy an outcome, right? Can this thing guarantee me an outcome? Yeah, I know I have a login, I've got to do a little bit of work, but am I really driving it, or is this thing providing value on its own? It was very clear early on. Load some content up, train some behaviors, give it a trait, personality trait, and then outcomes were left and right. All you had to do was ask questions to get outcomes. So when you think about software as a service versus maybe work, as a service, right? That's an interesting concept. Is the mascot, and I love how WiseOx uses the mascots on their own website with names. They feel like they're people, and that's great, right? I'm Bobby, I'm your legal mascot, or I'm Sue, I'm your HR mascot. It's a great concept because people like rubbing elbows with people, and machines are getting close to being people. Now here at WunderKind, we've created some mascots that are named by type, meaning mascot for roadmap. That means all of our roadmap materials there. It's very clear. You don't have to remember that Erica is the roadmap mascot, but public facing, it's great to use proper names, it's great to give them a personality, and it's awesome. So I really like that concept. But what's really cool is they are incredibly reliable, right? We all have those favorite colleagues or people on our teams that we work with, and they go, Jeanette, she kicks butt, she's awesome. Mascots become like that. They become some of your best resources, and they start to feel like some of your best employees. And I don't say that in the way of like, okay, I need less employees. This mascot is so reliable, and I'm so confident in its output of what it's been trained to do. Again, a mascot for sales and marketing, a mascot for information technology, whatever it might be. It now becomes one of our best workers, so to speak. Now I can move people onto more human tasks. We interact with a lot of our clients. I need more human connection with clients. Let the mascot be your info guide. Let it be your source of truth. Just go ask it a question, just like you'd ask the CEO. Hey, how we doing, boss? Is revenue on the right track? Is our stock going up? Well, the mascot could answer that. You don't need to bother Bill, So think of these mascots as teammates if you set them up properly. Very easy, very confident, very reliable, and incredibly accurate. The most accurate AI tool that we've tested so far this year.